and welcome to my channel. My name is Francisca. If you're new here, it's good to have you on this channel. Today's tutorial is on this beautiful infinity jumpsuit. This is a jumpsuit that you can wear different ways. I also did it in such a way that you can decide to, wear it as a palazzo pants alone, or you can, attach the infinity wrap fabric and then, wear it as a jumpsuit, which you can style in different ways. If you're here and you're not subscribed to my channel, please click the subscribe button and click the bell so you get updates when I post new videos. And now let's get right into the tutorial. So guys, I have my shorts pattern. I'll be using my shorts pattern to draft my palazzo trouser. This shorts pattern was drafted in a previous tutorial. I'll link that in the description box. So right here is the front pattern. I folded my zipper fly inside because I'm not going to be putting zipper fly in front. I folded the seam allowance at the bottom of my shorts inside. So can you see that my pattern has seam allowance on the side, at the inseam leg, the crotch, and at the top. I folded the seam allowance at the bottom like I mentioned earlier. So guys, what I did was to draw this midline of the shorts. I drew it to the entire length of my fabric. Here is the midline. Can you see the yellow chalk mark right here? And I drew that line all the way to the bottom of my fabric right here. Can you see the line? So what I'm going to do now is to first of all drop the crotch of the pattern. This will give a little bit of freeness that palazzo pants usually have, just a little bit around the crotch area. From this point here, that's my crotch line now, not from this part. From this point, what I'm going to do is to mark ½ an inch outwards. I'm going to extend the crotch by ½ an inch. So I will just mark that. I'll just mark ½ an inch. And what I'm going to do is, this my crotch line that we have here at the seam allowance point. What I'm going to do is to just connect it to this ½ an inch that I marked here. So I'll just go ahead and create my curve and just connect it like so. So did you see that? So I've connected it to this point here. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the length of my palazzo pants. So do I want it to be at my ankle length, or do I want to be wearing this palazzo pants with high heels? That would now determine whether you need to add extra inches to the length of your pants, or just, leave it at your ankle. So what I'm going to do first of all is to mark my normal length. And for me, from my waist to the bottom of my trouser is usually 41 inches. Do you understand? It's usually 41 inches. What I'm going to do now is to remove 2 inches of band from that 41 inches, and that will give me 39 inches, right? So from my waist now, I'm going to be measuring minus seam allowance. So you can see where my tape rule is. It's not at the top where I have the seam allowance, it is right here. So from this point now, I'm going to be measuring 39 inches at the bottom of my trouser. So right here is 18 inches, just where my shorts end. So I'm going to mark 39 inches on my fabric, which is right here. So I'll just mark 39 inches. So I'm marking it on this line, that middle line that we marked earlier. You can now decide whether you want your palazzo pants to be longer than this, or you want it to remain at this point. So if you know that you're going to be wearing your palazzo pants with heels, you are going to be adding extra inches to this. It's going to make it, look a lot more nicer and chic, if you get what I mean. So from this point that I marked, which is usually my length, the length of my trouser, I'm going to add an additional 4.5 inches from this point here. I'm adding 4.5 inches to accommodate for heels when you wear heels. So I'll be adding 4.5 inches Can you see? And then I'm going to have half an inch seam allowance right here. Now, the reason why I'm adding half an inch seam allowance right here is because my fabric is not enough. So we are going to be cutting the hemming allowance separately and then join it to this fabric and sew. Do you understand? And I did not want to cut it horizontally because of the type of pattern that I have on the fabric. It is sort of like vertical. So can you see? The pattern is sort of like vertical. So I did not want to cut across the grain of the fabric. So that's why I'm adding extra fabric for hemming the bottom of this trouser. What I'm going to do now after marking this extra length that I added is to mark my ankle circumference. So my ankle circumference is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So I'm going to be marking 6 across this midline right here, this midline that you can see. So what I'll do is place 3 on the midline, mark the beginning of the tape rule right here, and then I'll go ahead and mark 6 inches right here. So because we are making this into a palazzo pants, we are going to be adding some extra inches. So I'll add an extra 3 inches to both sides of the fabric. So I'll add 3 inches right here. So I'll come right here now from this point where I marked my ankle circumference divided by 2. I will add 3 inches, which is what I'm marking. Then add half an inch for seam allowance. Do you understand? The upper part of the fabric has seam allowance. It's only this lower part that did not have seam allowance. So I added half an inch here. I'll add half an inch here as well. So just go ahead and measure that for yours. Add half an inch. So that's what I have. And once that is done, I'll be connecting the bottom of my trouser to my crotch right here, not to my hip, because I want to have this, fitness around my hip. I'll come right to this other side where I have my crotch. So what I'm going to do is connect from the bottom of my trouser to around this point. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'll just connect straight to this point right here, and then what I'm going to do is do like a slight curve from this part here is my thigh. So it's sort of like half an inch away from my thigh, and then I'll just go ahead and, can you see what I'm doing? Connect it to my crotch like this. So just go ahead and do that for yours. I'll connect straight from the bottom of my trouser to my thigh. Draw a straight line all the way to your thigh line. This is my thigh line right here on my shorts. So I'll draw a straight line like this, and then I just went ahead to, just connect it to the crotch extension that we did here. So we have this slight crotch look. So can you see that? So once everything is all marked out, I'll just go ahead and cut this out. It's very, very simple, right? So I'll go ahead and cut my pattern out. After cutting the front piece, this is what I have. Can you see that? And we'll just go ahead and work on our back piece. Guys, I've attached my back pattern to this piece of fabric. It is folded into 2 as well. What I did to get the midpoint of my trouser was to measure this point, divide it into 2, mark the midpoint, and then I connected it to the center of my dart. But you do not need this top part. So when we are drawing a straight line for the back piece, do not place your ruler like this. Don't do that. Instead, start from the bottom. So instead, place your ruler like this and then draw a straight line. The focus is at the bottom of your pattern. So after connecting, this is what I have. If we remove 2 inches of band, I'm supposed to have 39. So from this point here is 18 inches. So I'll place 18 on my tape rule at this point. Can you see what I'm doing? And then I'm going to mark 39. So from this 39 that I have here, my fabric is not enough. We're supposed to add 4.5 inches for length allowance because of the heels that we're going to be wearing with this trouser. And then we're supposed to add 2 inches hemming allowance. So at this point now, what I'll do is just mark my ankle circumference divided by 2. So exactly what we did for the front is what we'll do for the back. I place 3 in the middle here, mark the beginning of my tape roll, mark 6 right here. What I'll be adding for the back will be slightly wider than the front. I added 3 extra for the front and half an inch seam allowance, that's 3.5. So for the back, I'll be adding 4 inches. So I'll just come right here, mark 4 inches, come to this point, from this point here, not from the midline now, from here, I will mark 4 inches. So once I mark that now, I'm going to come to my crotch area for the back. We are also going to drop it as well. So from this, my crotch line, which is right here, I've marked it now. I'm going to extend it, this line now, I'll extend it by 3/4 inches, come down by half an inch. So I've marked that. I extended it by 3/4 inches, came down by half an inch. So I'm going to be connecting my crotch curve from this point here. I'll just connect it all the way to that half an inch that we marked. So can you see, this is what I have. This crotch curve extension that we did here, the one that we came out and came down by, I'll be connecting it to the bottom of my trouser right here. In order for me to do that, I'll first of all create like a slight curve from this point. Can you see what I did? Just create a slight curve. And then from here now, where I drew this slight curve, I drew a straight line from that point here all the way down to this point, to the end. And then I connected from the hip area as well all the way down to the end of the fabric. So just place your ruler like this, just connected from this slight curve at my hip area all the way down. So guys, this is what I have after connecting. I have my palazzo pants for the back. Now what I did was to attach that extra fabric that I said I was going to attach, because my fabric was not long enough to cut it into the length that I wanted, and the pattern of fabric did not allow me to cut, you know, on the other side or horizontally. So that's why I'm going to be adding extra fabric. So I've added the piece of fabric. Can you see it? You actually not notice any difference. So if you're having the same issue, just make sure that the fabric that you are adding to the other trouser is, you know, aligned the same way. You can see that the stripes are aligned to these stripes right here. Can you see this? So just go ahead and do the same thing. So now that I've added my extra piece of fabric, what I'll just do is just extend this midline of my trouser. I'll extend it down. So this is the line right here. The extra piece of fabric that I added was sewn by a half an inch seam allowance right here. So the length of my trouser is supposed to be 39. Then I'm adding extra 4.5 inches because of my heel size. So if I add 4.5 to 39, that will make that 43.5. Do you understand? So I'm just going to mark that 43.5 right here. So just mark it. And then what I'll now do is add my extra 2 inches for hemming allowance. So I'll just go ahead and add the extra 2 inches. So I'm going to draw a straight line at this point. So can you see that? In order to mark the bottom circumference, you know, after we have added our extra fabric, I'll just come right here, measure this. I should be having 14. So I'm going to place 7 right here in the middle. Can you see this? I place 7 in the middle, mark the beginning of my tape roll here, and then I mark 14 right here. And then I'll just connect it to this line, connect this one to this line. So guys, after everything has been connected, I'll go ahead and cut out my back pattern. So after cutting, guys, this is what I have for my back piece. My back piece and my front piece are all cut out. In the earlier part of this video, I did not have hemming allowance for my front piece because my fabric was not long enough, so I've gone ahead to add that, and this is what I have right here. So I have my 2 inches right here. So this is it. By the time you fold it in, everything is going to go inside. So can you see, here is my 2-inch hemming allowance for the front. The next thing I'm going to do is to transfer my darts from the pattern to the fabric for both the front and the back trouser, and then sew them on the fabric. And then I'll go ahead and sew the crotch curve for both the front and the back trouser. Go ahead and sew the crotch. After I have sewn my crotch, this is the front crotch, right here is the back crotch, and I have sewn my darts as well for both the front and the back. The next thing I'm going to do is to match up the crotch area so we can, sew the inseam leg. This inside of the leg is called the inseam leg. So I'm going to place the front and the back on top of each other with right sides touching. I also made sure that I overlock the raw edges of the fabric so it doesn't, fray over time, as is with most Ankara fabric. So I'll just place the crotch on top of each other like this, match up the seams. So once I do that, I'll just go ahead and pin this down. After I've pinned this down, I'll take this to my sewing machine. So I'm going to stitch from the crotch area that I pinned all the way to the bottom of the trouser. Can you see? Do the same thing for this other side as well. Stitch from the crotch all the way to the bottom of my trouser. So that's what I'm going to do for this trouser. And after sewing the inseam leg, I'm going to be sewing the side seam as well with a 1/2 inch seam allowance from the top all the way to the bottom. I'll do that, and then for this other side, instead of sewing from the top all the way down, I'm going to be sewing about 8 inches. The reason why I'm not sewing about 8 inches, you can also make that 10 inches at the top here, is because I'm going to be attaching a side zip to this side of my trouser. So I'll just take it to my sewing machine, leave these points, start sewing from around this place all the way down, only on one side. The other side will be sewn completely. So guys, I've sewn my inseam leg and the out seam. I also went ahead to use my zigzag stitch on my machine to overlock the raw edges so that it doesn't fray. So this is what I have. I've sewn the crotch together as well. And please, if you feel that 3 inches, after marking your ankle circumference is too wide for you at the bottom, you can go ahead and reduce it by 1.5 inch on both sides, both inseam and out seam, because that's where you added the extra allowance for your wide leg pants, but it will still be wide. So I reduced mine because I didn't want mine to be that big, so I went ahead to reduce it, and this is what I have. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and fix my invisible zip on this part that I left open. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'll be attaching my invisible zip to this my side seam area with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll just go ahead and do that, and then we'll have a zipper attached. In order to attach this invisible zip, I need to use a zipper foot. So if you don't have a zipper foot for your sewing machine, go and get one. It will help you a lot, and it will help make the zipper actually look more invisible. So guys, I fixed my invisible zipper. This is it right here. So this is it. I fixed it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I actually like the invisible zipper better. It actually, not stresses you with fixing a zipper fly. So I've attached this, and what I'm going to do next after attaching the zipper is to attach the waistband. So I cut my waistband using the waistband pattern, and this is what I have. So the overlap for my waistband is going to be at the side seam area, and I cut 2 pieces. Can you see this? So I'm going to sew the top to join it together before attaching it to the waist of my trouser. And whenever you are cutting your waistband for a side seam zipper. I'm going to cut it and sew it in such a way that the overlap will be on the side seam area. So I have attached my waistband to my trouser. So can you see? This is my waistband. One will be on the outside, the other will be on the inside. So I have my overlap right here at the side seam. Can you see? So the center front will be sealed because there is no zipper and there is no zipper fly on this trouser right here. So what I'm going to do now is take this to my sewing machine and sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all around, joining the waistband to the waist of the trouser. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. So I've sewn this part of my waistband to the waist of my trouser. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring this other part like this. Can you see? And then I'll go ahead and fold in by a 1/2 inch seam allowance, fold it all around, and then I'm going to stitch it down all around by folding with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Can you see what I'm doing? So this is what I'm going to do for this second part of my waistband. So I'll just take it to my sewing machine and sew now, making sure that the seams are aligned where they're supposed to be. The seam of the waistband is aligned to the side seam of the trouser or to the crotch of the trouser. So I'll just go ahead and do this now. So guys, after attaching my waistband, this is what I have. This is how neat it looks. For the infinity part of this jumpsuit that we are making, what you want to do is to cut your fabric into about 2 meters by 10 inches. I cut it along the length of the Ankara fabric, which is usually 45 inches. If you have worked with Ankara print fabric before, it comes in 45 inches length. So what I did was to cut 2 pieces out. So I have 2 pieces of about 10 inches right here by 45 inches in length. So what I'm going to do now is to join this together at this point with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so we can end up with a very long strip. So at the end of the day, I'll be ending up with 10 inches by 90 inches. 2 meters is roughly around 80 inches, but I decided to just go with double the length of my Ankara prints. So that's why I'm going to end up with about 90 inches by the time I sew this part with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've joined it together and this is what I have. This is the joining right here. The next thing I did was to do a rolled hem at the edge like this. So I rolled the hem and I stitched it down, which is why I have this like this. I rolled this part as well and stitched it down. That's why we have this part like this as well. The other thing I did was to just fold this part in. I folded it in once because it is the selvage part of the fabric. If you are going to be cutting around that 80 inches, you want to fold it twice to help conceal the raw edges. The selvage of Ankara fabric doesn't fray, so that's why I just folded it once, and this is what I have. This other part is also the selvage. I didn't bother to do anything to it, but you can go ahead and fold it in if you don't want this written part of your fabric to show. After sewing, you are supposed to have 2 of this for the infinity wrap effect. By the time you hem it, we should be having about 9 inches now. Okay, yeah, I'm correct. I have about 9 inches right here. You're supposed to attach this to the front of your trouser. So here is the front of my trouser, and each one is supposed to start at the side seam. There's going to be like a little overlap at the center front here. So we're supposed to attach this one at the side seam. Can you see? There will be an overlap here. The second one will be attached at the side seam, and then there will also be an overlap at this point. If you don't want it to have an overlap, you can go ahead and pleat it, and then there will just be an opening in the middle. Like I said, I want to attach this in such a way that this part will be detachable. So what I'll be using to achieve this is press buttons. What I'll be doing is attaching one part of the press button to the infinity wrap fabric, and then I'll be attaching the other part of the press button to the waistband of my trouser. Do we understand? So I'll just go ahead, arrange it, determine how many I want to use. So I have 12 right here, so I can decide I will be using 6 for each one. So I have 6 right here, so I'll just go ahead and do the attachment. Now, because of this overlap that we have right here, I will show you how I attach the press button to this part to ensure that the end, lays really nicely. I have hemmed the bottom of my trouser, can you see, with the 2-inch seam allowance that I added. I've gone ahead to attach my hook and eye to the waistband of my trouser, and this is what I have. For a 2-inch waistband, I always go with 2 pairs of the hook and eye so that it can secure the waistband properly. Now onto the infinity wrap fabric. I want to show you how I made this detachable. Like I said, I was going to attach press buttons, so I'm just going to detach the press buttons so you guys can see how I arranged this on the inside. I have the flat one on the waistband on my trouser, and I have the ones that would snap onto these flat ones on the infinity wrap fabric just at the bottom here. I attached these pairs of 6 first, so that is what I did. I have 1 2 3 4 5 6, so I'll just attach the last ones. So for this part of the infinity wrap, I have 6. 1 is snapped on here. This is 2 3 4 5 and 6. But on my waistband, the part that is supposed to attach to, I have 5. So what I'm going to do is attach the 5th one like this. Can you see this? And once you attach it, it is straight, right? So it means it is 5 here. Because of this overlap, there's no way you can fix the other parts that will snap onto this press button on the waistband. So what I did was to attach it behind this second infinity wrap, and by the time I attach it, everything is going to snap on. You're not going to have the this part sticking out. So guys, this is what I have. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell so you get updates when I post new videos. And I'll be seeing you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.